Well, I wanted to play a little game of two truths and a lie with you guys before we get going, okay? This is about me, so two truths and a lie. Ready? Here we go. The first one is that I have broken 12 bones. Is it true? Is it a lie? Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. I don't know. Let's see what the other options are. Number two, I won my high school talent show. Do I even have any talents? Am I good at anything? I don't know. Maybe I competed in my high school talent show, but I only got second. Maybe I went to a very tiny high school, and that's actually not very impressive. I don't know, right? Number three, third and final thing, I was born in Austin, in the greatest country on earth, Texas, all right? I was born right here in Austin, Texas. Could that possibly be true? I don't even look like an Austinite. All right, so which one do y'all think it is? Just shout it out. Two truths. One is a lie. I've broken 12 bones. I won my high school talent show. I was born in Austin, Texas. I could have been born anywhere, bro. I could have been born in a different country completely. You hear the accent? All right, let's reveal it, shall we? The lie is I've broken 12 bones. It's a lie. The truth is I've only broken 11. And I count these as major bones too, by the way. Like fingers and toes don't count. Done broken enough fingers and toes, can't even count them. Like, look at my hands. They're crooked. I got those banana fingers. It's nasty. But I've broken 11 bones, not 12. Everything else is true, and I can tell y'all more about that later. But I love this game, and I wanted to play it because I know there are things about me that you don't know. But I also know that we all have things about us that nobody knows. Probably deeper, more personal things like this, but even the people who know you the best, there are some things even they don't know about you. Kind of like this prism. We're in this series called Prism, and we actually have a little prism right here. It's pretty sick, but whenever you look at it, you can think like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's just some three-dimensional clear thingy. But just like us, there's a lot more to this prism than we think. And while it's possible to know a lot of people, and it's possible for a lot of people to know you, you might follow a lot of people on social media, a lot of people might follow you on social media, and that might be the case. You could go to a gigantic high school and know hundreds of people, but while that might still be true, all of us can still have the feeling that no one really knows us. And God created us with this desire to know and to be known. You can be known, and we desire to truly know people. But it kind of feels like with people sometimes, there's like this curtain in between us where we want to know them and we want people to know us, but it's almost like you're on one of those weird dating shows or something like that. It's like, I can see your shoes and I can tell you may or may not have swag, but I can talk to you. I can hear your voice. I can learn some things about you, but I can't really get to know you as long as there's this big curtain that is separating me from you. And to be honest, I've felt that way about God. I felt like I can talk to God. I can read about God. I can learn things about him, but can I really know him on a deep level? Like when you look at this prism, you don't know that whenever you shine light on it, it can create this full color spectrum of rainbow light, and I'll show you that another time, that comes out the other side. There's so much more to it than you know. And I think the same is true about God, the same is true about us, and the same is true about the person sitting right next to you. There's more to them than is on the surface. So if you felt this way about people or about God, I just want you to know it's not a new feeling. People in Jesus' time literally lived with this separation, especially when they wanted to get to know God and spend time in this place of worship called the temple. We have a picture of what the temple might have looked like at the time, and it was a big place, and you can tell it was big walls all the way around it, and it was sort of this exclusive place. Now, if you weren't Jewish, you had to stay on the outside of the temple, like you couldn't even come in. If you were a woman, even if you were Jewish, you could only go so far into the temple. That's just not right at all. Here's some labels. Okay, Jewish men could only go so far as well, only as far as their like religious status led them. Like if you were kind of ranked in what we would know today as like the church kind of system, then you could go further into the temple, into more holy or sacred places. Now, priests could go into most places, but only on certain days. And then there was this most sacred place of all, right in the middle of the temple, called the Holy of Holies. It's marked in the graphic as the holy place, and it's only reserved for one priest one time a year, and he would go in and he would spend time. This was like this place that represented God's presence on earth, and he would go in and ask for forgiveness of the sins of all people for the entire year, and that was sort of his responsibility. And the place was so holy, they would tie a rope around the guy before he went in because no one else could go in, and they would like feed out the rope because he could, in the presence of God, just get stricken dead, like right on the spot. And if that was the case, they had to pull his body out, you know what I mean? So, but he usually came out, but that, yeah, you know, most of the time. But that was that place where he went in to do some business with the Lord on the people's behalf. This place represented God's presence on earth. And I want you to know, it was literally walled off by a giant curtain. This curtain was 60 feet tall, 40 feet wide. It was hand woven intricately, one handbreadth in thickness, which is about 9 centimeters. I mean, this curtain was massive. It was heavy. It was crazy. What's the connection? You're like, we played this 2 truths and a lie. You got this little prism. We're learning about the temple. What does this have to do with me? What's the point? Well, people thought they knew Jesus. At the time, they thought that they knew who he was and what he was going to do. People believed that there was this person who was going to come and bring peace and freedom for all people. They were under the tyranny of the Roman Empire, and so they thought this military leader was going to come in and just overthrow the whole system with war and power and set the people free. They saw him, they're like, that's it. But there was more to Jesus than what we saw on the outside. It wasn't going how they thought it would go. Jesus lived this life. He was perfect. He was healing people. He was doing miracles. He was accruing this following. And then the Roman Empire that he was supposed to overthrow arrested him. Like, well, that's not going according to plan at all. Not only did they arrest him, they took him through this shady court system where they framed him and sentenced him to death by way of crucifixion, which is whenever you are nailed to a piece of wood and then you hang there in public for everyone to see. So this happens, and Matthew, this close follower of Jesus, records what happens next, okay? So we're going to be in Matthew 27. He says, they came to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. They offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall. Gall is like this rancid, bitter substance that when you're offered wine, you're like, okay, that would help with my thirst as I'm here in agonizing torture. But they put something in there to make it taste disgusting, to just mock him and make fun of him, even in the middle of that. So it was gross, and he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, like rolling dice, saying like, hey, who gets this piece of clothes? Who gets this piece of clothes of this guy who claimed to be God? Ha, 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 we killed him. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there, and above his head, they placed the written charge against him. When people were crucified, it was in public to send a message for everyone to see. The government was saying, if you mess with us, this will happen to you. So what happened in public, and they would put what the person did wrong on the cross above him. And his charge said, this is Jesus, King of the Jews. Here's your king. This is the one that you thought was going to deliver you and save you and set you free. Not on our watch. We are king. That's what they said. This, by the way, was one of the most horrific ways to die. You would often be whipped multiple times to where the flesh was open on your back, and when you're hanging on a splintery wooden cross, you have to lift yourself up to breathe. And when you do that, because your chest, your lungs, or diaphragm, it's all being crushed as you hang there, and you have to lift yourself up to breathe, and it scratches those open wounds on your back. It's so agonizing that eventually you can't do it anymore, and you suffocate and actually dies of asphyxiation. And while Jesus was enduring this for you, he was being insulted and mocked the entire time. But I want us to look at what happens next, because this is where we're going with all this. When Jesus cried out in verse 50, in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. And I want you to know, the Romans didn't take his spirit from him. He willingly gave it up. He didn't have to die on that cross. He was God. He could have just gotten right off of the cross and proved it right then and there. But there was something more to it. He relinquished his spirit. He gave it up willingly. And at that moment, the curtain in the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. This curtain that separated God from his people was ripped in half, top to bottom. If it was a person who went in there and ripped the curtain, it would have been bottom to top. The thing was 60 feet tall. The only one who could have did it was God himself. It ripped from top to bottom, this thick, impenetrable curtain that only certain people were allowed to go into, this holy place, to have to be in the presence of God. That was off limits to everyone else suddenly became on limits to everyone. Whenever Jesus died, God ripped that thing down, saying, I'm here not just for the priests, not just for the men, not just for the people who are high up in the church. I'm here for everybody. I'm here for you. I want to make my presence known, that you can come to me anytime, anywhere, anyone, no matter what. No matter what. Light shined through the prism and revealed something new. It was ripped apart. And so this morning, Jesus wants you to know this. The days of separation are over forever. The days of feeling like you can't know God and him not being close, where there's this veil or this curtain and there's something in between you and him, or there has to be another person to go from you to him to communicate your message or to ask for forgiveness for your sins, that doesn't exist anymore. You have all the access all the time to all of God. Period. All of us. And that is good news. You might feel distant from friends. You might feel distant from family. But because of Jesus, listen to me, you can be close to God. You can be close to God. And like I said, that goes for anyone. No matter what you've done, no matter what you've thought, no matter what you've said, no matter what you're currently struggling with, you can be close to God. He did this for you, knowing all of it. Knowing everything that you'd ever think, say, or do, he went through with it anyway. You can be close to God. Jesus did this for you.